Coming up on the show today, former NFL player Shawn Harper talks to us about winning and how to dominate in your field. Apologies for some technical difficulties at the beginning, but the episode runs smoothly.
You can think from the mind. You can think from your gut, which has a little brain in it. And you can think from your heart, which has, 60,000 neurons that can process information. So a lot of times when you think from the heart, you're thinking from perspective of imagination. And that imagination, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but that your actual imagination is greater than time. It's greater than a space. It's greater than logic and rationale. The imagination is so powerful, but in our educational system, we're taught subconsciously to destroy the imagination.
Welcome to the Inquisitive Friend podcast. I'm Shawn, your host. Join us as we explore diverse perspectives on the human experience, offering insightful interviews and deep reflections on philosophy, spirituality, psychology, from a bird's eye view on the essence of being. Welcome to this episode of the Inquisitive Friend podcast. Today, I'm very excited to have on the show Shawn Harper. Shawn is a former NFL player. He played in the US and in Europe, in specifically Amsterdam and Germany. Shawn talks a lot about the strategies of a professional athlete and what that might entail. Shawn has been able to transfer all of those amazing skills as a professional athlete over to his work now as a CEO of his own company. Shawn talks about domination. Now, it's not in the way that you might think. Professional athleticism takes a lot of mind skill, and it's all about mindset. And this tends to go throughout any competitive sport. Anyone who has ever watched a competitive sport will notice that some people excel and some don't. And Shawn believes this is down to mindset and what you believe about winning. And I fully and totally agree with him. Everything starts with a mind, and the mind can be quite set in a particular way of thinking and a belief system. It can also be quite challenging to shift that belief system, which starts at a very young age. So if we look at athletes and competitive sport, not only do we look at skill and sportsmanship, of course, that's very important, but we also look at mindset. Now, if you're quite intuitive, you can tell when an athlete, anyone competing, is in it to win it. There's just something about the person, the way they walk, the way they stand, the way they look out at their competitors. And I'll use the analogy of tennis. I'll use the example of tennis, my favorite sport. And football is second, but tennis. Now, so if you've ever noticed someone like one of the greatest tennis players of all time, Roger Federer, who's just retired, and the sport is really missing him. His biggest competitor throughout his career has been Rafael Nadal. Now, they've given us many, many, many hours of fantastic, I would say, nail-biting tennis. And it's been fascinating and so enjoyable to watch, but it takes you through all the emotions, different emotions than what the athlete on the field will be feeling. Now, something like tennis, which is a one-to-one sport, so there's just yourself and your competitor across the net, takes a different mindset. When you're within a team, a group of people, you have a group mind, and that transfers onto a football field or any other competitive sport field. When you're in a team, like a sport that Shawn played, which is in the NFL, you're playing within a team. And Shawn talks to us about coaching as well and how his coach helped him, because you had to win. If you win, then your coach wins. And that's where the coach is coming from. And from a personal aspect, you, the athlete, will be feeling a particular way about winning as well. Now, I don't know if you guys think about that. I mean, some people just sit and enjoy sport. People like myself who are a bit in their heads will think about other things. And I notice with some, I'll use tennis, some players, they may make it through the majors. And the minute they step onto the grass court at one of the biggest stages of all time, which is Wimbledon, something happens for them. It is the Holy Grail, and there's so much history there, but it is seen within the tennis world as the Holy Grail. And some of them just lose it. So they may even make it to the final, but somehow, some way, they're unable to get to the finish line. They're unable to push past coming in as the runner-up. And that is down to mindset. And some of you will be thinking, well, no, that's down to skill. Okay, it's a combination of things. But really, if you look at history, a lot of it's mindset. There are many people who've won many things, and you think, wait, hang on, how did they do that? They weren't that great. That is down to mindset. When you look at someone like Roger Federer, this comes with an aura. This mindset will come with an aura. It will permeate every part of you. And so when he steps onto a court, it's the way he looks, it's the way he walks, it's the way he holds his racket. It is the way his aura permeates throughout the stadium, and it will hit through that tennis ball. Some of those shots will be mind-blowing, but that is, again, down to mindset. If you step out on a field or in any arena to play a sport, if you step onto that field aware that you've only come there for one reason, and that is to win, then you most likely will win. If there is a sliver of doubt, it will seep in and seep through, and your result will be runner-up, second place, third place, whatever it is. You may not win the title. We can all see it as though everyone wins, which I agree. If, let's say, the New York Marathon, it's the taking part bit. That's important there. So you are a winner. If you've turned up and you're running, it may take you 10 hours to get to the finish line, but you win because you participated. It's different in a different competitive sport like tennis, whereby you've got particular sets, you've got to get through them, you've got to beat your opponent. You must beat the opponent. You must win those sets, more sets than your opponent in order to lift that trophy. We've all been rooting for them. Come on, come on, come on. We insert the name, insert any name, and we just see that it's not going to happen. Just look at their spirit and you know they're not going to win. Now, some people may even get to the final of Wimbledon several times and not surpass their opponent. Why is that? And I believe it's mindset. So the mind becomes set in a particular way of belief, thought process, and behavior. They're all linked. And if you have the mindset of winning and domination, which Shawn talks to us about, dominating your opponent, then you will likely win. When we talk about domination, it's very different than dominating, having control over someone else. That's not the domination we're talking about. That's bullying. And okay, we've seen some sport where there is some bullying on the field, or even in tennis, we've seen it. However, this type of domination is a domination that it takes to win. And it's domination not necessarily over your opponent. It's domination over your own thoughts, your own belief system, your own behavior. And if you can visualize yourself winning and lifting that trophy, most likely you will do. But if there is a sliver of doubt, then you won't. And it's a tough thing to get your head round. If you look at your life, you will likely have examples of that. And it may not be a big stage like Wimbledon or Wembley or wherever. It could be just as simple as passing a test, getting a highest grade, excelling, getting that promotion, whatever it may be. And Shawn can coach people into that mindset. He can help you to unset that doubt and shift you into the mindset of winning. And the important thing is, Shawn has been able to transfer these skills into a corporate space. And people are becoming much, much more positive and confident in their skills. The mindset starts when we're quite young. I know people hate to look at, is everything about childhood? Well, I'm afraid it is. It all starts there. The human brain is taught. And repetition, which is one of our greatest learning skills, if you repeat something over and over and over again, it becomes a belief and a way of being, a behavior as well. And so those, for me, are hypnotic suggestions and affirmations. And if someone says to you that, you're wonderful, you're great, then it's quite likely you will start to feel that. When someone begins to doubt, and doubt can be placed by other people, they're usually primary caregivers or immediate connections, such as teachers and extended family. When that is challenged, because a child usually isn't born that way, a child is nurtured in a particular way. But you can, even though the mind can become quite set, you can unset it and replace it. In other words, you can reframe those thoughts, but you've got to identify them. So an example would be, I like to use this example of, I once treated twins that came to stop smoking. And I have to say, they have talked about this publicly. I helped twins stop smoking. Now, when they came to see me, they couldn't understand why they couldn't stop. They had tried everything. And these statistics are quite dire with people stopping habits such as that, such as smoking and stopping smoking. And people say, it's about motivation. Well, it's more than that. It's about mindset and your unconscious beliefs, which result in particular behaviors. For example, continuing to repetition again, the behavior of smoking. It took a while, but we were finally able to identify where those thoughts came from. And they were instilled in both of them at a very early age. I won't say who, but someone said to them, you'll probably start smoking at the same time they did. It was primary caregiver. And of course, at that particular age, they started smoking. And it took a while to identify because obviously it was in their unconscious mind, so it wasn't at the forefront. They had forgotten about it. They were quite young when it was said to them. Saying that to them was an affirmation and a hypnotic suggestion. Shawn, at a very young age, someone said to him, he was voted most likely to fail. Now, when we look at that, we know that the school, the teacher, whoever it was that decided to say that to him, failed. Because that was a child they were speaking to. They were setting a stage for someone to fail. A hypnotic suggestion. However, Shawn, not without difficulties, but Shawn was able to surpass that and become who he is today. He played for 7 years professionally, and he excelled in his profession. He had a 7-year career as an offensive lineman with the LA Rams, with the Tennessee Titans, with the Indianapolis Colts, and he played for NFL Europe. So Shawn was highly sought after, played some amazing games with great skill. And then, as we all know, the lifespan of playing professional sport is limited. And that is because the body, not necessarily because of the mind. And we do talk about that as well. And he did something very smart, which was he transferred those skills over into a business, which is fantastic. Shawn is also the author of the book, The Winning Edge, 8 Principles that will bring out the winner in you. And you can win in many ways, but we're talking about athleticism here. One thing that I always admire is sportsmanship. And it really breaks my heart when I see athletes lose and they're unable to congratulate their opponent or opponents if it's a team. It really speaks to their ethics, who they are inside. It's no longer about winning then. It's a personal thing, and they haven't been able to move past that. And that is a mindset that would have been set early on by someone. Parents can sometimes instill in their children, don't come home without the top grade, or they must get the top paying job. All sorts of affirmations that aren't necessarily helpful. Now, sometimes they may be, but often they aren't. And mindset is something that isn't easy to undo, simply because you must first become aware of how your mind is set. And the example of the twins stopping smoking, the example of Roger Federer, even if you watch the Beckham docuseries, that was fascinating. David Beckham's mind was set at quite a young age, but also he was coached, and that's something else that Shawn will talk about today. Coaches are crucial to the development of a mindset. And, you can see it in a coach. You can even see it in a coach. If their team is losing, their body language changes, their facial expression changes. There are a few coaches in football whereby you didn't know what they were thinking, quite stone-faced. No need to name names in England. But some of them, you just didn't know what they were thinking. However, some coaches wear it all on their face. You can see it. But if you win, the coach wins. And this type of mindset, this incentive to win, to dominate, becomes set quite young. And when tennis players, I will use that example because it's my greatest reference, when it's a one-on-one sport, such as tennis, it can become even more difficult because there is nobody else to blame. It's all down to you. And that can be a huge relief for some people, because that can be an even greater motivator. For some people, it may feel a relief to have a team whereby you are working with each other for that winning result. Shawn's going to talk to us about all of that today, and I'm so pleased to have him on the show. Before we get to the interview, I just want to remind you to like the video. If you like what you hear, like what you see if you're watching on YouTube, if you like what you hear on Apple or Spotify or any other streaming platform, click the like button and leave us a review. I'd love to hear from you. It helps to keep the podcast going, but it also helps, if you share the video or share the podcast, you can easily just click, I think on a lot of them, it's those 3 little buttons, those 3 dots, and you can, click the link and copy the link and then share it on your social media, which would be fantastic, so that other people can learn as well. This podcast is all about sharing lives so that we all learn from each other. And it's the way human beings grow. It is the most effective way of growing, learning from each other. And we are not the only species that does that. We may be the only ones on social media. And, Shawn is an example of someone who has taken his life experiences and is still using them to help others. He's founded his own thriving security firm, an American services and protection company. And he's been able to excel in not only the NFL, but that as well. So I want to say to the teacher or the school, whoever allowed him to be voted most likely to fail, to look at him now. But I'm also hoping that all of you listening to this out there today will take that on board when you speak to children or even other adults. We're still a sieve. Even as we grow older, we can take things on board that aren't necessarily true and have it affect you to the point where it becomes a mindset. So you do have to always be aware. Be aware of the content you consume. Be aware of the people you're around, mostly around, and be aware of what you allow in. I want to welcome Shawn Harper to the show. Here's the interview. Shawn, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm absolutely over the moon. Can't wait.
You know what? Thank you for having me. And let's go. Let's have fun and let's win. That's it right there.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, let's start. Now, I know a lot of people like to start at the beginning, but I really want to jump into your corporate work. You are a corporate motivational speaker.
Yes.
I've watched your work. It's inspiring. You always give these amazing antidotes and you link it in with mental health, mental stamina. You're a brilliant speaker. And a lot of your work is focused on the workplace environment. What drew you to that particular area of motivational speaking?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for inviting me onto your show. I would just love to just set the atmosphere of gratitude, and I don't take these podcasts lightly. You never know who's listening and whose career, their mental health, sometimes their life is hanging on the balance, and so this is an absolute blessing for me to answer your question. Basically, I just love to pour in the world's greatest resource, which is people. What I've learned is that when you invest in people, it has the potential of reaping generations of dividends. One of the things that taught me is once I retired playing professional sports, I would drive to my office. The time was about 20, 30 minutes away. And if I'm driving to the office, I would see people and they're driving in the car and everyone's just basically looking. It's 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning, and they're already looking miserable, right? And they're getting all this road rage. And I'm like, wait a second, there's a lot of stress and trauma in the workplace. And if I could address that and to unlock that and help people in that space, they spend a lot of their life, 8 to 10 hours a day working every single day. That's a significant chunk of their life. The other 6 or 7 hours are sleeping. So you know what? Hey, let's jump in there. Let's kind of encourage them to do their best that they can do at what they do. And basically, that's how I'll start it.
Wow. And just the visual as you describe it, you're right. And if you ride public transport, it's big here in London. That's the best way to get around. You see people on the trains looking miserable a lot of the times. So you're right. First thing in the morning, starting out your day like that isn't helpful.
No.
But speaking of which, you are a former NFL player. Well, when people say they are a former tennis player or former NFL player or former footballer, I always wonder, is it really former? Do you ever really stop? Most athletes still play once they retire. Do you still play?
You're one of the few people who have ever really tapped into that, because that actually was the crux of my struggle. Now that I'm finished playing at a high level, Now, they kind of teach you it's time for you to go into the workplace to make adjustments, things like that. But I was able, or I should say, I made a decision that, you know what, I'm still playing the game. It's just a different game. And I'm going to take the same mindset, the same attitude, the methodology, and the strategies, and I'm going to apply it to the workplace, but to dominate the workplace. Yes.
Dominate the work. That's it. Yes. So we had a little delay there. Absolutely. And you played in the US, but you also played for a European team in Germany.
Yeah.
How was that?
I played. True. You know what? It was absolutely amazing. The European mindset when it comes to football is not just a sport; it's life. So I played when I was in Germany, and then I played again another year when I was in Amsterdam. And and to have 60 to 70,000 people singing one song to you, there is nothing like that in the world. The fan base over in Europe is just top notch. I love it.
Oh, that's good. Yes, it's the same with soccer or football. It's the same.
Well, yeah. That actually, that's where that's basically where Europeans got that whole fan base mindset from, was original football, soccer, and then when we came over, they just carried it right on over to us, and we're like, oh man, this is so great, this is awesome. I mean, they're like yelling from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. It is nonstop energy. I mean, how can you not win in an environment like that?
Exactly. It's motivational, and it doesn't stop when they leave the stadium. They carry it on to the pubs, to the
yes.
So
like these songs, we sing these songs like Alice. Never mind.
Oh yes, there are sometimes rude songs, but there are some crazy songs out there. But I wonder if you could maybe share with us 2 strategies that you think are easily transferable from being a professional athlete to, let's say, the corporate workplace. What strategy?
Yeah. So the concept of teamwork, totally different. In the corporate world, teams work together. In the sports world, teams work as one. It's different. It's a different level of unselfishness. There's just this level of humility in the sports world that says, I cannot do it without you. In the business world, it's like, hey, I would like to do it with you. But in the sports world, it's like, I can't do this without you. If I'm playing a running back, I cannot win without my lineman. If it's rugby and, if like a wing or whatever, I cannot win without the scrub or the scrum, whatever you call it, people that are in the middle. I can't win without them. We're all connected. That mindset carried over to the corporate world. It's like, yeah, this is my teammate, but if it's going to be, it's up to me. There's more of a higher level of individualism, I would dare say narcissism, in the corporate world versus the sports world. That's number one. Number two is that in the sports world, we have a different perspective of the failure. Failure can lead directly to reflection. Okay, you didn't succeed. What did you do wrong? What happened? Where's the lesson? And it's no longer failure, it's called tuition. In the corporate world, it's more like, okay, you didn't get the numbers. Okay, let's move on to the next project. Come on, let's go. Let it go. It's in the past. No, man. Sports mindset, we dig into the rejection. We dig into the abandonment. We dig into the failure. We find out what happens so that next week when we play again, the same mistakes won't happen again.
Excellent. So we're really talking about constructive criticism. Let's look at the issue. Let's look at what happened. You have to be open to it, receptive. You have to listen.
Yes.
I love your video about the haters. That's another one. You have to listen. You listen to people.
Right.
You don't have to agree, but you listen. Absolutely. And the other one, teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. And that brings me to this idea of teamwork, because it's excellent. But I was saddened to read that when you were younger, you were voted most likely to fail. And I was thinking, what was going on in our schools back then? It's a different world now, but how somebody had to approve that kind of thing, most likely to this or most likely to that. I know it's all changed in the world now, but what kind of impact did that have on you?
Well, I think you went out for a quick second.
Oh,
It had a humongous impact on me. It still has an impact on me. But what I was able to do is that sometimes you have to go into the past. And so when I was younger, is that I went to the past and I said, if I fail, I'm going to prove them wrong. Right. So I took that and I turned it into motivation. Now, when I go back into the past and I dissect that this time, you know what? I was voted most likely to fail because I'm not created to flow with the system. I'm created to change the system. I'm a totally different beast. I don't fit in their. First, they're going to kick me out. I'm meant to change the structure. I'm meant to create stuff that they flow into. I'm not a part of you. So that's why you couldn't understand me. I'm different. I'm cut different.
I love that. So you used a failure on their part, really, because they failed in that area, but you used that to motivate yourself and move forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful.
If I could add, though, is that there comes a point where you have to change the story, because the first part is, I'm going to prove them wrong. And, there was a lot of resentment and anger there. And one thing I've learned is that anger always destroys the container that it's held in. So you have to make peace with the past. And then you have to come to a different realization, because you don't want revenge. You don't want strife. You don't want bitterness to be your motivation for long. You got to take that log off the fire, because that log knows no allegiance. It will eat you if you let it. So you got to make peace with you have to. Cleaner energy, which is love.
That's so important.
You're listening to the Inquisitive Wren podcast, the show that brings you philosophical ponderings of your life from a bird's eye view.
So important. Forgiveness, which is something I also talk about, the power of forgiveness. There's a brilliant video on Shawn. All the links to everything for Shawn will be in the show notes, by the way, and his YouTube channel. And there's some amazing videos. They're very inspiring. And there's one about forgiveness as well. So you do touch upon these areas. And it's obviously very embedded in your delivery and what you believe, because this is you, isn't it? This is who you are.
It is.
Wonderful.
It is. Yeah.
Let's talk about the word domination. I know you use it quite a lot, and we're going to come to your book in a minute, but I was thinking earlier, I'm in the healthcare field, and I was thinking, well, how would my colleagues be dominating or try and dominate? And I suppose with scientists or even therapists or psychologists or even a construction worker or an architect would want to maybe surpass what they already know, continue to seek to do better. But that's my thought. What do you mean when you talk about domination?
Wow. So I'm going to kind of I think I'm going to coin a phrase like right now. I'm going to coin this right now. And the coinage that I like to use is the domination zone. Basically, what I mean by that, just to give it some clarity, then we can use that to segue into the book, is that every individual has the potential to dominate. You can participate in life and you can dominate in life. And when you get into a domination zone, that means that you're moving past yourself and you are moving to the highest peak and the highest level and the highest potential that you could basically exist in, move in, and work in. You are in a dominating zone. Now, I mentioned just now, I didn't speak when I said move past yourself. And what I mean by that is that to get into a dominating zone, typically you have or you need somebody in your life who push you past you. Like, so all athletes, we have coaches, and coaches push us past ourselves. I guarantee you, if I didn't have a coach, I'm not running sprints. I'm not lifting weights every single day. I'm not going to practice. I'm doing what I don't want to do. We have a tendency to basically push ourselves to a certain limit. Okay. And that's where most of us stop. But when we have a coach, okay, when we have a team that's going to push us past ourselves, we move into what I call a dominating zone. We in the domination. Now I talked about segueing that into my book. There's a chapter in my book called The Winning Edge, and I talk about the 212. And basically what that is that water is water at 211 degrees. Anywhere in the world, fresh water is 211 degrees. That's normal. Okay. It can get hot. It can get 150. It can get 180. It can get 200. Okay. It can get 211. When it moves 211 degrees to 212 degrees, that water boils. And boiling water has changed the world, right? From steam engines and to everything else. And so a lot of people that move into the domination zone, it's like this much extra to push yourself, this much extra past yourself into what I call the 212, which is another term I use. Is called dominate zone.
And I suppose anyone could apply dominance in their life. Anyone.
Yes. Anybody. But yeah, so basically what I said is that, to actually move into the 212, like, you know what, you have to have something outside of yourself. And the first thing that you would have to have is a good coach, and typically, people that have actually played sports, they understand, a good coach is never impressed. They're just like, good job, but they're always pushing you forward, pushing you to the limit. And the good coach is able to see the limit and see your limitations and push you to that, and then to have that cheerleader. So it's like, you know what, I'm with you. I support you. I believe in you, because guess what? We do get down on ourselves. We do feel like throwing in the towel. We do have moments of just a depression. It happens. And one of the things that I don't like about my industry, motivational speaking, self-help, or just that world, is that we don't talk about the darkness. We don't talk about disappointments. We don't talk about depression. It happens. And because we don't talk about it, we don't talk basically how to get through it. We are just focused on the other side. No, you got to get through these times. You got to force yourself through it. And world changers, dominators, leaders, we all go through it. We all go through it. We all live it.
Oh, that's really powerful. Because somebody out there will be hearing this thinking that they're a professional athlete. And
right.
Why are they've got lots of success, but why are they depressed? Why are they down?
Right. Right. It happens. But it's not a destination. You got to work through it. You got to fight through it. I pray through it. I speak life through it. And I always gauge my life off of truth. Like, you can have facts and still not have truth. I gauge my life off of the truth, and that's how I live it, and that's how I run with it.
Wow, that's powerful, though. You can have facts, but it's not always true.
Right.
That's huge. So now, okay, the winning edge, 8 principles that will bring out the winner in you. I love that title. Sure. So what inspired you to write the book?
Well, I've been blessed to have so many wins in my life, a lot of wins. And most of them didn't come the conventional way. It's like, well, you are a business owner, yet you've been in business for 20 years. Like, yeah. That's unheard of. The average lifespan of a business is maybe 2 or 3 years. Or you've been married for 25 years, or you've been, or you are a speaker for this many years. And there's a lot of longevity. So what is it about you? Well, first of all, it's not me. I believe that I'm blessed by God. But number two is that there are little strategies that basically aren't taught. They're not taught. They're not taught in school. They're not taught in society. And I've just said, you know what? I'm going to introduce some of these strategies to people, and maybe they can emulate and have some wins in their life as well.
Brilliant. And I know the book, you do touch upon things like how you transition from athlete to business owner, which is, it's a huge transition. You go from sort of having other people run things for you, and as you mentioned, a coach who's egging you on. How do you get that in a business, So what was that transition like for you?
It was tough. It was, as you mentioned earlier, an athlete's life is it's just so. If I could use the word, it's regimented. It's like you do this at this time and this here and this blah 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 and blah blah this and this, there's all sorts of systems and everything in support for you. All you have to do is one thing: perform. That's it. You get on stage or you go on field and you just play the game. Well, in life, it's not like that. It's not like that. And so there are other skill sets that you have to develop. You have to grow with. And if you don't, you're going to get left behind. Or you find people that can help you so that you can keep moving. But soft skills like networking and things like that, like athletes typically aren't really good at, because we didn't have to network. Everyone wanted to network with us.
That's a really good point, because you're then in a position of celebrity sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
And also you're highly revered. Football players are highly revered. It's entertainment. It's sport. Sport adds so much pleasure to so many people's lives.
Right.
That they stop their entire life to watch a game. So it's a big part. And you, Shawn, being on the field in that uniform would have been that image for people.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes it works against you, because once you leave the sports world, people don't want to take you out that box. So it's great that you are a former athlete, but how do I see you as a CEO? I don't see that, because I see the athlete, and it can work against you. You can lose opportunities and things, because they don't see the business person; they see the athlete. So you have to constantly work against that stigma and that stereotype.
Wow. And is it better now? Do you think it's changed a bit?
Yeah, I think it has. But I would like to put myself in a position to where I'm going to win regardless of your opinions about me. I'm going to win.
And this is a theme you always come back to. What does, Shawn, for you, what does winning mean to you?
Winning is the fullest expression of who you are mentally, spiritually, socially, financially, and most importantly, legacy. Your fullest expression. That's why you need a coach to get into the 212, to get it all out of you, to get to the end in the last day and the last moments of your life, and there's no regrets, where you can smile like, I did it. I did what I was called to do. Like the Apostle Paul says, I ran this race.
And, that's some of the work you offer as well to people. That's some of the that you do offer, which we want to talk about. But just before we move off of the book, so something you say about know what to expect when you begin standing out from the crowd. And it resonated with me because sometimes, you go into something, you do your best, but then you can be disliked because of it. People can become envious, or they resent you. And what they're missing is that because of that, you're actually pulling everything else down because of that resentment. So,
yes.
Yeah.
So,
what are your thoughts about that?
well, it is, there's so much to actually unpack in what you just said. I'm just going to focus on a small sliver of the pie. You have to make amends with isolation, rejection, and abandonment. You have to come to the conclusion that if you're going to win, you're going to stand out, and people aren't going to like you. And the reason why they don't like you, oftentimes they don't even know why they don't like you. Basically, the truth is that you are stepping out, and subconsciously or consciously, they're trying to pull you back in. They're trying to put you in a position. They're trying to peg you to a hole. Because when you stand out, you're saying, no, there is another way. And the societal norm is saying, no, this is the way. It's like an invisible force that wants to keep you in a certain position and keep you there. And you have to be willing to stand out. So guess what? If you're in the 3rd or 4th grade and you come to school with like polka dots or things like that, or you're different, through fear and ridicule, they're going to try to pull you back in or keep you at a certain level. But what's so amazing is that when we get older and we become adults, we love people who stand out. We admire people who are different. Like we admire, that one athlete who is basically better than anybody on the team. We love Michael Jordan. We love LeBron James. Or now, basically on this side of the pond, in the United States, we love Elon Musk. Right? When you think about the whole concept of that right there explains everything right there. This guy has a spaceship, right? That he's like, I wanted to go up in space and then I wanted to come back. And they're like, no, that's not the way it works, because NASA has been doing it a certain way all these years. But he's like, no, I wanted to do. And guess what? He failed and failed and failed, and people laughed at him. People ridiculed him. People tried to sabotage. He just kept going. And I promise you, last week, I saw a rocket ship land right back in the exact location that it took off at. Or how about the electric car? Or how about Starlink? Or how about now they have satellite phones?
They laughed at that. They said it would never happen.
Exactly.
What if Einstein had stopped?
Yeah. What about Colonel Sanders, who's in this 70s and he's like or 80s, and he's going to start a chicken franchise. He does that.
Yeah. But here we are with mobile.
Here we are.
Little phone.
Here we are.
You just need a watch. And so, yeah, it's amazing. And it's really, as you talk about a lot in your work, it's those limiting beliefs.
Never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button right now. Thank you for your support. You make this podcast possible. Now, back to the show.
And those beliefs settle in early in our lives. In your work, Shawn, how difficult is it to tackle and work with people in tackling their limiting beliefs and reframing, is a phrase you use as well, reframing their thoughts, their beliefs, how they see themselves and what they may be able to achieve?
I think the toughest work is having them to be cognizant of the fact that their thought pattern is limiting. Because sometimes you don't know. You just do what you do. It's what you do. And this is what I do. But yeah, there could be some limitations there. And once you're awakened to that, once you are awakened, if I could use the term, once you are awakened to the matrix, the system of control, you're like, aha, this is a self-sabotaging, limitingly thought. Let's bust through that.
It is difficult. We see it all the time. And, even though we're some of us, the therapists or whatever, motivational speakers, coaching, you will still see it. And we struggle with it sometimes ourselves. So, yeah. And that's why we're able to help other people. That's why you're able to help so many people.
One of the things that I'm really, really moving into, and this is like a Pandora box too, right? So I'm just going to take another sliver of the pie, is that there's like 3 methods of thought, right? So at least 3. So I'll just use the word cranial, right? It's like, okay, you can think from the mind. You can think from your gut, which has a little brain in it. And you can think from your heart, which has, 60,000 neurons that can process information. So a lot of times when you think from the heart, you're thinking from perspective of imagination. And that imagination, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but that your actual imagination is greater than time. It's greater than space. It's greater than logic and rationale. The imagination is so powerful, but in our educational system, we're taught subconsciously to destroy the imagination. Yep. But if you can ever get back to the dream state where you begin to dream and begin to see it, you can manifest it. You might not be able to create it, but you can manifest it. It's a difference. Christians, we use this term called faith, and that is the evidence of things hoped for, or things hoped for with the evidence of things that are not seen. Mm-hmm. So now by faith, I'm moving. And woo, I tell you what, that is a powerful force. That's a powerful force, and I don't, have time to really jump into all that, but I'm moving in that now. It's really deep.
But were you always like that, Shawn? Even
no.
Boy.
No, not always. I had made, and if I could circle back to the first part when we were speaking, I had made it an endeavor to prove everyone wrong.
Yeah.
So I had a chip on my shoulder. But as I mentioned, you can't live like that, So now there has to be a different, there has to be a different source, which I said, the first log is love, and now the second log is faith. Mm. So the life I live now, I live by faith.
When you were in a football team, I'm wondering how that played out, because when you were you played with the Rams. Wow, that's I have a Rams cup somewhere. How funny!
Oh, you're so blessed to have a Rams cup. That's right.
But I'm just wondering, like, if you were playing, I don't know, what was one of your biggest competitors? Who did the Rams hate? Everybody.
You hate everybody. The Raiders was basically a huge
Oakland
competitor.
Okay. Yeah.
Oakland. Yeah. Right. There was a guy, if I'm not mistaken, his name was Chester McLaughlin. Oh, he was a big guy. He was a big dude playing around that time. Tough guy. Yeah.
Wow. So when you knew you were going to be facing Chester,
mm-hmm.
Did you have that winning mindset? Did you think, right?
No. See, a lot of that. I mean, it was there. Glimpses of it was there, but to really move into it, no, I didn't have that when I was playing sports. I was still on the chip on the shoulder, edge on the shoulder guy. But I understood. I'm a winner. But to the magnitude of what I have today, right now, even the last year or so, no way. And what's so amazing is next year it might be even deeper. So it's there's an internal and a spiritual evolution that's happening, that I'm always evolving and moving from layer to layer in that aspect of my life.
Right. That's so important, because we can do all the mind work, we can read books, we can learn it all. But spiritually, that's a whole different concept, a whole different animal altogether as such. And
one of the weaknesses of Western culture is that it's typically or. And what I mean by that is that we are like the masters of mental spiritual, emotional, physical, compartmentalization. So like example, when we go to the workplace, this is my mental. This is my mental, right? And then when we go play sports, this is my physical. This is my physical. But true winners in life, it's mental, spiritual, emotional, everything is all connected. And that's how we move. That's how you're supposed to move. When I step on the field, it's physical, it's mental, it's spiritual, it's financial, it's emotional, whatever. It's all happening at the same time for 4 to 5 seconds per play. And that's where you gain a lot of the power. That's where you get the spiritual energy from and everything. But oftentimes in life, it's either this or it's that. Church on Sunday, I'm done with church. Now Monday, it's all work because life is not built like that. The spirit of the man, the spirit of the woman, it's not built like that. It's supposed to encompass everything. It's like a wheel. And then at the center of the wheel is, everything is connected to that, which is why a lot of dis-ease, has its roots in physical in the mental, like stress or depression. It's all connected.
And that's why it can be difficult to treat, because sometimes they just treat it with medication, which is the physical.
Right.
You've got to treat the whole thing, the physical, the mental, and the spiritual.
Yes.
I know that from mental health. I've sat in rooms with very ill people. I know you can pump them up with medication all you want. It may control their disposition, but in the end, it comes out in some way. So
it does.
When we talk about you and your beginnings and looking at your life now, I'm wondering also what drew you to the security business, because you have a very successful security company.
Yeah, I fell in. Well, it started with my brother. He had it first. And then he had some complications, and they asked me to take over. And that's what I did. I took over, and I've been doing it for over 20 years. That's the real short answer. And but it still allows me, it still gives me the leverage to go travel and speak. So, yeah.
Which brings me to, as we start the last couple of questions, really, what's up next for you? You do so much work. And I loved your TED Talk, by the way, your TEDx talk. I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes.
I have a TEDx talk somewhere out there. I don't.
Well, you've got
no.
Wait, you're
a Goldcast.
That's it. Sorry.
Yeah. You know what?
It looks like a TEDx.
I know. And listen, no. See, there are no accidents. See?
Oh no, I already know. Absolutely.
That's right. You spoke that. And that's it. It's happening.
I know.
TEDx. Next year, this time, I will have a TEDx talk.
I know it is happening. No doubt. I have no doubt. No doubt. Yeah. I've already seen it happen. That's why your TEDx is out there.
Yes, ma'am. I believe it. I see that.
Oh,
I receive it.
I do.
What's next? You asked me what's next, right?
Yes.
Oh, man. So the short answer to that is, how can I magnify not just me, but the God in me? And it's not just the God in me as far as, well, this is what I believe and I'm speaking. No, it's people are really, I think they're tired of hearing God and they want to see God, right? So they want to see grace. They want to see love. They want to see forgiveness. They want to see truth. They want to see compassion. They want to see the attributes. So it's like, Lord, allow them to see it through me, and let's 10x this thing. So let me speak more. Let me give more. Let me travel more. Let me be a blessing more. And everything that I do will magnify you in so many ways. Maybe I just get on the plane and fly over to the UK and give like $100,000 to start something, an orphanage, and just fly home with no fanfare, right? That's God.
And yes, we'd love to see you in the UK, but I do want to say this. I don't know. And, of course, I don't know because we haven't talked before about these things, but are you planning to help athletes in a particular way? I just feel.
Oh man, you know what? Woo!
I just feel like there's a huge piece of work you're
You know
about
what?
with athletes.
You know what? That's another confirmation. I am working on a system for retired athletes right now. I know, right?
Incredible.
Yeah. Coaching them. Yes. The short answer is yes. I would definitely do that.
Because they will hear and listen from you
Yes.
in a way that they won't be able to from Joe Blogs, from whoever, from company ABC. But they will hear. They will hear you because you're one of them, and they'll see you as a brother. So that piece of work, Shawn, for you, I think is going to put you over the edge. Huge.
Okay. Got it. I received that.
You've got to do it. I'm glad you're already looking into it because they need it. They really need it. You said earlier, you talked us through a bit of the coaching. You always coached and all that. But then all of a sudden people are retiring. And athletes, let's face it, the retirement age is younger than most people. Athletes face a whole different retirement kind of issue. And athletes really need that talk about what's next. They may not want to hear it, but you can take it to them in a way that they'll hear it.
I receive it.
Thank you. Brilliant stuff. Shawn, I mean, oh my goodness, I cannot thank you enough. This has been incredible. Thank you for everything. You've really put the spirit of winning in this talk. And as we end, what would you say to our viewers, our listeners, if they feel that they are maybe considering a change in life, they're facing maybe retirement from a professional field, and they're a little bit hesitant? Maybe they were top dog in their field, and now they think, oof, whole new area. Am I going to be a small fish? How can they overcome that, just that bit of doubt?
Wow, I got so much to say for them. Sorry. Number one is persistence through resistance. And basically, one of the chapters in my book, persistence through resistance. Get back on the bike. You learn how you actually learn how to win and to exist by failing. And at a certain point, we're taught that, you're not supposed to fail. No, yes, you will fail. If you learn from it, it's not called failure. It's called tuition, right? And it's course correction. And that's how you win. Persistence through resistance. And each time you come up a little stronger. I don't care how old you are. Step out.
Oh, thank you, Shawn. Guys, please go to Shawn's website as well, ShawnHarperWins.com. And the link to his book, go and get that, in fact. There's Kindle edition, there's loads of choices there, so go and get that. And follow him on social media, especially the Facebook and the YouTube, because people have so many videos and so much you'd binge watch, which I did. You'll binge watch a lot of it because you're short. They're quite compact and short. You get your message across, which I need to work on. So you've got it down pat. Shawn, thank you for the amazing work you're doing, for the way in which you're changing the world, and for your courage and bravery in helping people face their biggest challenges, which is themselves.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And audience, just keep winning.
Keep winning. Thanks, Shawn.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Inquisitive Rin podcast. I hope you found it insightful. If you did, I'd love for you to share it with a friend who might enjoy it too. Don't forget to share it on social media. It really helps us reach more people who resonate with our content. If you haven't already, make sure to follow the show. It's the best way to stay connected and help our Inquisitive Ren community grow. I'd also love to hear from you. Leave a rating and a review to let me know your thoughts. And be sure to follow so you never miss the latest episodes or behind the scenes content from the Inquisitive Ren. Thanks again, and as always, stay curious.